My name's Xavier D. Johnson. Oh man, I got over 15 years of technical experience, about 7 years in cybersecurity. And I want to talk to you guys today about all of you as developers out there, sysadmins, network operations folks. You understand that security is moving. It's moving fast. Every single day there's a new bug that comes out. Every week there's some new kind of exploit that's coming out. So for us as creators, makers, thinkers, doers, for us to stay beyond the curve on security, we have to shift left on security. So you're probably thinking, okay, shift left, what does this mean? Well, we have to put security a little bit earlier in the order of operation. Security shouldn't be taken into consideration after you've had a breach or you've already had an incident response group and post-breach remediation come through and now you want to do security. There's a lot of opportunities to do security before you ever deploy your app. And so today, I want to talk to you guys about just that. So, Devsecops. Devsecops, as a DevOps engineer, I've been a DevOps engineer. DevOps is, you probably heard about this earlier today, it's a practice in which developers, engineers, network sysadmins all get together and they come up with this repeatable, highly repeatable process that allows them to be able to deploy any piece of infrastructure, software, et cetera. It's where development and operations meet. So basically, DevSecOps is much better for the corporation to do before the actual deployment of the application. So this isn't, I've built the V1 or I've done an MVP and I want to go ahead and do DevOps. No, DevOps is from day one, right? So basically, building security into DevOps is not necessarily a new practice. This is something that's been going on for quite the time. And there's actually a term around it, DevSecOps, right? So SecOps is another portion of traditional infrastructure, IT. And they decided, hey, well, we got DevOps, we got SecOps, well, we need DevSecOps. We need to figure out a way to put security into the pipeline. So why should you care? Well, DevOps as a practice helps us deliver these wonderful applications that we're all working on rapidly. Netflix is actually deploying code thousands of times a day. There's a deployment happening right now at Netflix. This is how you get to stay up to date on your latest and greatest shows. This is how they can deal with demand when they do releases and any spikes in traffic can be accounted for because they're basically streaming code into the cloud. So within DevSecOps, being able to be alerted, being able to find these vulnerable libraries and packages while they're still inside of the development process allows it to be less costly for development teams, product managers, potential customers in the future trying to chase these bugs down. So I want to talk to you about my approach on DevSecOps in a very easy and low-hanging fruit way for you to be able to take an existing piece of software that you've written, some code base that you have, and be able to put it into a pipeline, which you should already be doing, but then add the security check inside of that pipeline so that you can know that the packages that you're deploying, the things you're putting out into the internet, are not vulnerable to low-hanging fruit, right? Opportunistic scanners, et cetera. So I want to dig in here and actually plug up my Lappy. And I'm not sure if any of you have grabbed the Git repository. Please go check that out if you haven't. Excuse me. Do I click next for my portion of the slides to come up, to share my screen? Okay, here we go. So, let's see here. Oh, there we go. Well, I'll do this because I can't see what's on. I can't see what you guys see. It's not mirrored. So I'm going to stand this way. I'm sure you won't mind. So to get started, we're going to need a few things. And you should probably take the time to actually go and download some of these things. Oh, I'm offline. Give me 1 second. So while we're waiting, can you take this time to actually go and look at a project called Circle CI? Circle CI is going to be our continuous integration and continuous deployment platform. You're also going to need a GitHub account, or any Git repository really would do, but I'm a GitHub fan, so I would suggest that you go ahead and get a GitHub. And last but not least, you're going to need something called Sync, S-N-Y-K. This is used for us to be able to actually do the scanning on our code for security. So that's our provider here. So yeah, what I'll do here is go over to Circle CI. Open up a new tab, get into my GitHub. Open up a new tab, go into my sync. I believe it's sync.io. All right. Now, as long as LastPass doesn't let me down, we'll be in shape. So I'll go do login on sync. How many people here use password managers? Oh, that's not enough hands. Oh, that's not enough hands. You got, how many people here do 2FA? Oh, more hands. Okay. All right. I like that. I like that. So I'm going to log in with my GitHub, which I should already be logged into. And then I'm going to go over here to Circle CI, and I'm going to log in as well. All right. So now over here in GitHub, the best way for me to get this started for you is to go ahead and make a new repository. This new repository we're going to name, and you can follow along. That was part of the reason why I decided to go ahead and start from scratch. Please follow along. All right, here we go. Hacking with the Homies Developer Conference 2020. We'll go ahead and initialize this with the README, because I like to. And we're going to create this repository. Now, this repository that I'm creating is going to house a very, very simple Python application. Overly simple. It's going to consist of 2 files. A hello world file, HELLO_WORLD.py. This is a Python application, and it'll just print hello world. There you go, right? I know, I'm committing to master. How many people know why you don't want to commit to master? All right, we'll have a conversation in the after party. So I'm going to create another file, and a part of Python, we have to manage some kind of libraries, some kind of packages. So we make something called a requirements.txt, and what this does is it allows us to be able to put all of our dependencies that we need so that our source code, our actual code, our environment can actually know to go and get that for us on behalf of us. Whoops. There we go. And we have some requirements to put in there, but I'm going to go and copy them for my other repository, let's be honest. So while I'm here, I do have my repository open. I'm going to go to my requirements. I'm going to go grab those requirements that I need. I only have 4 simple requirements. Flask, which we've set a specific version number to. PyInstaller, which we've set specific version numbers for. PyTest and PyLint. So with these, I'm going to go ahead and update, commit these changes. Now my Python application, for lack of better terms, is complete. Python, done. We don't have to do no more code, right? The next thing that we want to do is figure out, okay, how do we take this project and connect it to, oh, look at this. We found potential security vulnerabilities with your dependencies. I found this while working on this talk for you. I didn't realize, and I don't know how long it's been happening, but thank you, Microsoft, because they own GitHub now. They've went ahead and started to scan my code for low-hanging fruit on behalf of me. So even if you're using a platform, like my favorite platform, GitHub, some of what I'm showing you right now immediately becomes relative and it immediately is impactful for you because you can see exactly the requirements, the security alerts that have been generated based on the requirements that I've put in, the code that I've written. So go over here to Circle CI. We'll go over here to jobs, infinite development. We'll make a new project. Tick-tock goes the clock. I'm not in a rush. Here we go. Hacking with the Homies, DC 2020. Let's go ahead and set this project up. So now you can see this config.yaml file is created. This is a file that will allow Circle CI to know exactly what you're trying to do in your pipeline, the steps that the pipeline should be taking, right? So I have some specific things that I want to do that is not this. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and click Start Building, just so that we can get it going. This will make a new branch called Circle CI Project Setup, and it'll do a new commit, right? So we'll go ahead and add the config. It's going to make these files on behalf of me. This is my Circle CI configuration, so it's in the dot file. You can do git ignores for these types of things if you have different ones for prod versus dev, etc. But now you see we have a pipeline running. And it's doing build and test, and it's doing the whole thing, right? So we're gonna let that do what it does. Because in reality, when I refresh this and I get this new folder here, oops, where'd it go? Oh, here we go. Compare and pull requests, boom. So this is because Circle CI is being operationally excellent, and they're not committing directly to master, which you would not have permissions to in most environments. Can I make it a little bit bigger? Yes, I can actually. Not sure if I can go bigger than that. There we go. All right, so now when I go into my repository, I should see I have a new folder called .circleci. Inside this .circleci, you'll have your config.yaml file, and this will have the version, the orbs, the jobs, workflows, etc. These things are very specific to Circle CI. If you want to go and look into this, we can have a conversation outside of this, but for brevity's sake, we'll move forward. The idea behind doing a configuration for the pipeline is adding some kind of step that will go and actually build my source, test my source, and then go ahead and do the security testing against my source before they go ahead and deploy it. So since I already have some of this done, I'm going to go over here and grab the configuration file that is needed. Which is on another account of mine. Give me one moment. And if you're looking at the repository, you already see what I'm looking for. Inside the Circle CI folder. As you can see, this is infinite development. If I go up here, whoops, I go up here, add a new tab, paste and go, you'll see that this is infinite, that's me. So I'm looking to get this, this file right here. So inside of this file, here, let me make this bigger, because I know you guys probably can't read all of this stuff. So inside this file, you see some comments immediately. Add below to scan. And there's this new orb added, right, called sync. And sync has a version number associated with it. And this is what you need to add for your pipeline to actually do the scanning. But we're not really ready for that just yet. We're ready to make a new job named build test, which is going to make a Docker image that has some steps such as checkout, run, and then this run actually runs this command, which then takes some environment variables that we have set up and go ahead and and inject those into the runtime of the actual CI/CD, at Circle CI. We go ahead and do a pip install of those requirements because we need to go and get all of our dependencies. And then, again, more comments to let you guys know that you need to add this to scan. And this is actually just like the run, that dash run, that's an actual command. And anything that's inside of that command is in YAML format. Those are the actual parameters for that command. So when you see that dash sync scan, that's actually a command to Circle CI to interface with the orb to tell sync to start scanning at that point. I did have some tests running, but in reality, we're doing Hello World. So I just wanted to go ahead and echo out that we are running some kind of PyTest right there. And then we have the ability to actually push a Docker image, which I opted out of because Docker has some weird edge case bug that was introduced in January that they haven't figured out yet. So I decided to move away from that particularly. But with this file right here, we're able to actually use Circle CI to do some scanning. So I'll switch over from this new repository into this repository because they're the exact same at this point, right? And I'll go ahead and show you what happens when we edit the Circle CI file and we turn off scanning. So we're going to go ahead and turn off scanning. So now sync should not do any scanning at all. There's no orb imported, which is our actual library to do the scanning, and there's no call to the sync scan function. So we'll go ahead and scroll down to the bottom. We'll commit our changes. We'll go over here to pipelines. Whoops. What? Circle CI decided to change the GUI on me midday. So we'll go back to the app. So we can try and get the old version. Here you go. As you can see, it's different. And as of 47, 48, 49, I could do this all day, seconds ago, we had a success. And so what is involved with the success? Well, we had to spin up the environment, which was a Docker engine. We went ahead and prepared the environment variables, things that we needed, such as the sync token, the Docker login, et cetera. These things are redacted because they're secrets. Then we went ahead and we checked out the code, and then we installed those Python dependencies, right? So that requirements.txt, that Flask, we went and got that Flask, that PyInstaller, that PyTest, et cetera, right? And then we ran the unit test, which is, hey, we're running tests. So as far as this engineer is concerned, they just they got their ticket done, right? We all know about tickets. My job was to go ahead and get a pipeline built. I built a pipeline. My boss is going to give me a raise. And if I'm in DevOps and I'm the security guy standing around, I'm saying, hey, there's an opportunity for you to do a scan in this exact environment, right? So with this scan, in this opportunity, I want to fail the build. The reason why I want to fail the build is because after this actually success, the final step is to make some kind of artifact. Maybe it's a Docker image. Maybe it's an actual virtual machine image. Maybe we just package this code up and zip it up and send it to S3 for download later. Maybe we make it into an exe because Python has those capabilities. No matter what, this pipeline has some kind of artifact that comes out of it. So at the end of this pipeline, we assumed that this has now launched. Remember, we talked about Netflix launching deploying thousands of times a day. This is one of those deployments, right? If this was Netflix, now you may have a bug in your environment because you haven't done any testing prior. So we'll go back here and we'll say, hey, sir, you may want to think about what you're doing. Here, let me try and get back to, got a lot going on here. you may want to think about what you're doing, go into that config, and make a new step that would do some kind of scanning. And if I was that person, I would go ahead and utilize this orb from sync. I would add this to my code, make sure it's well documented so that people understood it. I go ahead, make that change as my senior has asked me to do. Go back over here to Circle CI. And we see that there's a new build running. And as this is building, it's installing the Python dependencies currently. I'm sure we see all of this stuff daily because it's console. It's downloading the sync CLI. Well, that's a new step. It's running the sync test, and oh, look, we found 2 issues, 2 vulnerable paths. Here, let me make this a little bit bigger for everyone. 2 issues, 2 vulnerable paths. Looks like Flask has a denial of service, which is considered high risk, and it looks like PyInstaller has potential for privilege escalation, which has a high severity. So something that looked very, I don't know, normal to all of us. An application, it does hello world. There's some requirements .txt. These packages aren't even being used. So let's take these packages out. Let's remove this risk and show you what it looks like once these are no longer there. And the 2 vulnerabilities, PyInstaller and Flask. So we'll go over here. We'll go to Flask. Well, actually, how about this? Let's do a live test. Ooh, this is gonna be fun. View security alerts. So they're supposedly already telling me about this. And I have some pull requests to fix this. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if this robot, the Pendabot, is correct. Merge pull request, confirm merge. Let's go over here to Circle CI, go back to master. It's running. Last time we had 2 failures. And as you can see, it decided to give me the new version of Circle CI again. Finished 2 minutes ago, failed. Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to get back to jobs. Failed. And why did it fail? Well, because it looks like PyInstaller still has that vulnerability. So it worked. The Pendabot can be used in conjunction with something like this to actually get ahead of these vulnerabilities. So what I'll do is go into requirements. What's the last one? PyInstaller. We'll remove PyInstaller altogether. Or does it tell me which version is better? 3.6. So now I roll this to 3.6. Commit my changes, go back over here to Circle CI, look for my 43rd build, which is queued, now running, and when this turns green, because it'll turn green, when this turns green, we know that we have made an application go from being non-compliant and vulnerable to compliant and non-vulnerable. I'll give this its time. Download and sync CLI. Green. And so everybody here, I challenge you, because I'm a hacker. I get paid to hack people. I get paid to hack you. I get paid to hack you. I get paid to hack you. And you're all developers. So I'm challenging you to get ahead of me, because the red team never loses. The red team always wins. Thank you for your time. My name is Xavier D. Johnson.